Alright guys, so good afternoon or good evening again, good to see you guys one more time, alright? How's everyone feeling today? How are you feeling, Philippe?
Bit tired.
Bit tired?
Yeah, had a good surf.
Had a good surf.
Been a big day for me.
Oh, that's good. Enjoying yourself? Right, what about you, Leandro?
Nice. I did housework at home.
Okay.
I cleaned my house. That's it.
That's it?
That's
Alright.
it. How was the wave today?
It was good. Not
Okay.
too big, but fun.
And the water was cold?
The water
Oh,
was
really?
pretty good actually.
Just the
You
wind.
were out there, weren't you?
Just the wind outside that makes it colder. But how are you feeling today, Leandro?
Feeling good, thanks. Didn't do much during the day, just chilling at home.
Just chilling? Home. Do you guys understand chilling? That's some slang.
Relaxing. Like
Relaxing.
having a good
Alright,
time.
alright. What about you, Kayo? Drinking some wine today?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you have to improve your palate, right? And no better way to improve it than trying.
he's probably drunk right now.
I don't drink, I just
Yeah, well, if you were drunk, I wouldn't accept you here in the classroom. Alright, guys. Good. I don't know if you remember, but last class, at the end of the class, I asked you to think about the importance of speaking proper English. Okay? So, Philippe, how do you see this topic, importance of speaking proper English? What is proper? Something that is correct and that people can understand. Many people ask me, what is the best kind of English? Is it the American English? Is it the British English? And what I always say to people is that you don't need to speak Australian or American, you need to speak global English.
Alright.
What is a global English? Global English is the kind of English that everybody understands, alright? Doesn't matter if you're talking, if it's a Chinese person speaking English, or if it's a Portuguese person or a Syrian person, but you have your accent, but people understand you when you speak. And that's what you want. You want to be able to communicate in a way that people can understand
Yeah,
you.
I just think accent is not an issue as long as you speak a proper English, as you said.
Okay.
I think if you speak broken English, I don't know if that's the correct
Broken
term.
English,
Yeah,
yes.
if you speak broken English, people don't take you seriously.
Alright, yeah.
They don't take you serious. So if you want to get to a point, like to a good position in your company, if you want to get a good job, if you want to be understood, you have to be like as clear as you can, and you have to speak English.
Very well put, man. Very well put. Leandro?
I think the hardest part for me is to make the people understand me.
Alright.
I think to make the correct accent
Okay.
is very hard.
Yeah, as I said to you, there isn't a correct accent. What you probably want to say is that to say words clearly,
Yeah, correct.
to be clear, because sometimes you vary a little bit in your pronunciation, bang, and that's enough for them not to understand you, right? Okay, good. Portuguese, Leandro, please.
Yeah, I think it's really important to speak properly,
Okay,
because especially here in Australia, they look at you, they know you're not from here,
right.
and if you don't speak a proper English, they're not gonna take you serious as Philippe
That's what you
said.
just said, okay. Very good point. Kaya?
Yeah, pretty much the same. To
Good.
be understandable in every part of the world.
To, yeah,
Like a
yeah, that's it.
global English is it?
Global English,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can be understood in every
Yeah,
part
I
of the
think
world.
The accent is inevitable. You won't lose your accent.
It's inevitable,
so
yeah.
You just need to speak right. You know.
And to be clear,
Yeah.
because sometimes, let's say, pick an Italian person. Sometimes, I would just speak Italians. There's no Italians here, because sometimes they have a really strong accent. You don't. Sometimes you don't know if they're speaking English or if they're giving you a recipe for lasagna or something, because it's in Italy, so there's so much accent involved that you don't really understand what the person's saying. Okay, guys, very good. That's enough for us to understand, to see the importance of proper English. I have an excerpt. An excerpt is a part of a magazine article. So I chose something that talks exactly about what we just talked about. By Lennox Morrison. Are you there with me?
How do you
Yes.
call it? An exit?
Excerpt.
Excerpt.
Yes, it's called an excerpt. I'm going to write it down for you. Well, I'll just spell it for you. It's EXCERPT, excerpt.
Alright.
Is that just like an article or?
Oh, that's a part of an article.
Oh, right.
It's not the whole article, just
Part of it.
okay. By Lennox Morrison, editor's note, 29 December 2016. Through the end of the year, BBC Capital is bringing back some of your favorite stories from 2016. Kayo, can you read for us, please? You was just
Oh, yep.
Out loud.
Through the end of the year, BBC.
yeah. You was
Okay.
just yeah.
It was just one word in one email, but it triggered huge financial losses for a multinational company.
All right. So it's just a little mistake in the email, but it triggered a huge, an enormous financial losses for a multinational company. Please
Should I
continue, please.
The message, written in English, was sent by a native speaker to a colleague from whom English was a second language. Unsure of the word, the recipient found two contradictory meanings in his dictionary. He acted on the wrong one.
All right. So in this case, it was the native speaker person who sent the email, and the recipient. You know, he had English as not as his first language, so he wasn't too sure. And he looked up in the dictionary. Oh, it's not like this anymore, so you just look up, you know, online. And he saw two meanings for the word.
Yep.
And you know what he did? He went for the wrong meaning. And this caused a huge financial loss to the company. This is just an example of how confusion, miscommunication can generate a huge loss. In this case, it was a financial loss. Alright. Please continue.
Months later, senior management investigated why the project had flopped, costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. It all traced back to this one word, says
Chia Swan Chong.
Chia Swan Chong, a UK-based communication skills and intercultural trainer
Alright.
who didn't reveal the tricky word because it is highly industry specific
Okay.
and possibly identifiable.
Identifiable, yeah.
Identifiable. Okay. Things
Spiral. Do you
spiral.
understand spiral?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a spiral, like something that starts like this and just gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
So things spiral out of control because both parties were thinking the opposite.
Alright, good. Suddenly the American or British person walks into the room and nobody can understand them. Alright, so you're having a meeting, there's people from Italy, people from Portugal, people from Syria, people from Spain, France, and everyone can communicate. Everybody understands each other. And all of a sudden, there comes an American or a British person and nobody can understand what they're saying anymore. Alright? Philippe, can you continue please?
When such misunderstandings happen, it's usually the native speakers who are to blame. Ironically, they are worse at delivering the message than people who speak English as a second or third language, according to Chong.
Alright, so let's just pause here real quickly. That's interesting, huh? Because you think that the native speakers will be the best ones at conveying at passing the message on to you. But here we can see that they're the worst. They're really bad at conveying it, suggesting an idea. Okay? Can you tell us why?
In my opinion, it's because they're just the hardest to be understood, because they will speak proper English, and as you said in the last class, they don't realize it, but they speak it pretty quick
Alright?
for
For a non-English
for a
speaker.
non-English speaker like
Alright.
us, so
Okay.
they're always like quicker than everyone else.
Connecting
So it's-
speech
yeah,
too.
so it's hard. It's just the hardest for everyone else.
Alright, very good. Let's continue please, Felipe.
A lot of native speakers are happy that English has become the world's global language. They feel they don't have to spend time learning another language. stay strong. But often you have a boardroom full of people from different countries communicating in English and all understanding each other, and then suddenly the American or British walks into the room and nobody can understand them.
Alright, so that's a bit frustrating, you know, you have people from all sorts of countries and everyone can communicate, everyone can understand each other, and then you get the native speaker who just causes confusion
Yeah.
and havoc. Alright? So yeah, that's really interesting. It's the other perspective, you know, because sometimes you think that non-native speakers will make mistakes, people who don't have English as a first language, but sometimes who causes the confusion is the native speaker, because they expect you to know things that are sometimes a bit tricky to understand, expressions, slang, or if not slang, just jargons, terms that are common for them but not so common for you.
It's just, it kind of feels like if you don't ask them to speak slowly, they'll never realize that. They're just gonna keep going.
True.
But in the other hand, for all of us, we know that speaking English as a second language, it's just hard. So we speak slowly to each other. We, as you said, like we can understand each other more.
Yeah, okay. Coming from such a different culture as yourself, did you find any problems here? Did you have a hard time trying to understand the Australian culture, the lifestyle, the way they express themselves?
Oh yeah, I think the accent is really hard. So,
Okay.
And they have really particular words that they
Okay.
use and day by day situations, but
Takes time, right?
Yeah, it's something that you don't. It's not teach anywhere.
Yeah, so these are things that they don't teach anywhere. Yeah. So you just have
to live here and know people from here to know the terms and the way they really speak.
Yep.
Because it's really different from anyone who study English as a second or third language.
Very good, man.
Even different from British and Americans.
Perfect,
It's
man.
pretty
Totally
big.
agree with you. Yep. Especially here in Australia, they have a very particular way of saying
Yeah.
things. A barbecue becomes a barbie. An afternoon becomes an arvo.
Yeah.
And many, you know, there's so many terms and expressions that if you're not really a local,
I think it's a completely different language.
it is. It's Australian, man.
Yeah.
Right. Very good, guys. So as we could see in the excerpt, that's the spelling there.
Right, yeah.
Okay. As we could see in the excerpt of the article above, a simple misunderstanding in communication can generate great confusion. And in the worst case scenario, a big loss of money. Therefore, the way we communicate becomes extremely important to us and to others if we wish to succeed in our respective professions. All right. Yeah. Well, I remember that one time Leandro said that the company where he works, the timber company, there are some people from Tonga, and for them it's a little hard to communicate, and so you probably see that on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The language.
Mhm.
It's called a language barrier. Okay. Guys, today we're gonna watch a video so we can work a little bit on pronunciation, on listening and everything. And the video is about loneliness. Do you guys know the difference between being alone and being lonely? Leandro, Brazilian Leandro.
Could you please repeat?
Yes, the difference between being alone and being lonely.
I'm not quite sure.
I'm not quite sure. All right. Portuguese Leandro, you want to say anything about it?
Being alone means like you're by yourself, like, and being lonely, it's like a feeling. I'm feeling lonely, like, yeah.
Yeah, like if
Okay.
you're
Okay, that was almost there. Very good.
like if you're in the middle of a big crowd, but you still feel lonely, like there's no one there for you, you have no support. It's like a bad feeling, sort of.
It's a bad feeling.
Yeah, and
Do you
being
agree?
alone,
Yeah.
just being alone in a room, like I'm alone here right now.
So you can be alone without being lonely, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Is that clear for you?
Mhm.
Now I got
Oh,
it.
no,
Thank
you got it. Okay. So we're gonna watch a little video. We're gonna talk a little bit about it because we're living in a time now where everyone we're surrounded by people, but I think that more than ever, this is a very lonely period in human history. Everyone is with their cell phones and their tablets in a totally different world. You know, sometimes we are sitting around the table, but everyone has their own phone. So it's as if we're losing this human connection. All right, so let's watch this little video that talks about loneliness. It's a 12-minute video. All right, I've got it here. So, yes, anything wrong with that?
Time to time, when we have no one to sit next to at lunch, when we move to a new city, or when nobody has time for us at the weekend. But over the last few decades, this occasional feeling has become chronic for millions. In the UK, 60% of 18 to 34-year-olds say they often feel lonely. In the US, 46% of the entire population feel lonely regularly. We are living in the most connected time in human history, and yet an unprecedented number of us feel isolated. Being lonely and being alone are not the same thing. You can be filled with bliss by yourself and hate every second surrounded by friends. Loneliness is a purely subjective, individual experience. If you feel lonely, you are lonely. A common stereotype is that loneliness only happens to people who don't know how to talk to people or how to behave around others. But population-based studies have shown that social skills make practically no difference for adults when it comes to social connections. Loneliness can affect everybody. Money, fame, power, beauty, social skills, a great personality. Nothing can protect you against loneliness because it's part of your biology. Loneliness is a bodily function, like hunger. Hunger makes you pay attention to your physical needs. Loneliness makes you pay attention to your social needs. Your body cares about your social needs because millions of years ago it was a great indicator of how likely you were to survive. Natural selection rewarded our ancestors for collaboration and for forming connections with each other. Our brains grew and became more and more fine-tuned to recognize what others thought and felt and to form and sustain social bonds. Being social became part of our biology. You were born into groups of 50 to 150 people, which you usually stayed with for the rest of your life. Getting enough calories, staying safe and warm, or caring for offspring was practically impossible alone. Being together meant survival. Being alone meant death. So it was crucial that you got along with others. For your ancestors, the most dangerous threat to survival was not being eaten by a lion, but not getting the social vibe of your group and being excluded. To avoid that, your body came up with social pain. Pain of this kind is an evolutionary adaptation to rejection. A sort of early warning system to make sure you stop behavior that would isolate you. Your ancestors who experienced rejection as more painful were more likely to change their behavior when they got rejected and thus stayed in the tribe, while those who did not got kicked out and most likely died. That's why rejections hurt, and even more so, why loneliness is so painful. These mechanisms for keeping us connected worked great for most of our history until humans began building a new world for themselves. The loneliness epidemic we see today really only started in the late Renaissance. Western culture began to focus on the individual. Intellectuals moved away from the collectivism of the Middle Ages, while the young Protestant theology stressed individual responsibility. This trend accelerated during the Industrial Revolution. People left their villages and fields to enter factories. Communities that had existed for hundreds of years began to dissolve, while cities grew. As our world rapidly became modern, this trend sped up more and more. Today, we move vast distances for new jobs, love and education, and leave our social net behind. We meet fewer people in person, and we meet them less often than in the past. In the US, the mean number of close friends dropped from 3 in 1985 to 2 in 2011. Most people stumble into chronic loneliness by accident. You reach adulthood and become busy with work, university, romance, kids, and Netflix. There's just not enough time. The most convenient and easy thing to sacrifice is time with friends. Until you wake up one day and realize that you feel isolated. That you yearn for close relationships. But it's hard to find close connections as adults, and so loneliness can become chronic. While humans feel pretty great about things like iPhones and spaceships, our bodies and minds are fundamentally the same they were 50,000 years ago. We are still biologically fine-tuned to being with each other. Large-scale studies have shown that the stress that comes from chronic loneliness is among the most unhealthy things we can experience as humans. It makes you age quicker, it makes cancer deadlier, Alzheimer's advance faster, your immune system's weaker. Loneliness is twice as deadly as obesity and as deadly as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. The most dangerous thing about it is that once it becomes chronic, it can become self-sustaining. Physical and social pain use common mechanisms in your brain. Both feel like a threat, and so social pain leads to immediate and defensive behavior when it's inflicted on you. When loneliness becomes chronic, your brain goes into self-preservation mode. It starts to see danger and hostility everywhere. But that's not all. Some studies found that when you're lonely, your brain is much more receptive and alert to social signals, while at the same time, it gets worse at interpreting them correctly. You pay more attention to others, but you understand them less. The part of your brain that recognizes faces gets out of tune and becomes more likely to categorize neutral faces as hostile, which makes it distrustful of others. Loneliness makes you assume the worst about others' intentions towards you. Because of this perceived hostile world, you can become more self-centered to protect yourself, which can make you appear more cold, unfriendly, and socially awkward than you really are. If loneliness has become a strong presence in your life, the first thing you can do is to try to recognize the vicious cycle you may be trapped in. It usually goes something like this. An initial feeling of isolation leads to feelings of tension and sadness, which makes you focus your attention selectively on negative interactions with others. This makes your thoughts about yourself and others more negative, which then changes your behavior. You begin to avoid social interaction, which leads to more feelings of isolation. This cycle becomes more severe and harder to escape each time. Loneliness makes you sit far away from others in class, not answer the phone when friends call, decline invitations until the invitations stop. Each and every one of us has a story about ourselves, and if your story becomes that people exclude you, others pick up on that. And so the outside world can become the way you feel about it. This is often a slow creeping process that takes years and can end in depression and a mental state that prevents connections even if you yearn for them. The first thing you can do to escape it is to accept that loneliness is a totally normal feeling and nothing to be ashamed of. Literally everybody feels lonely at some point in their life. It's a universal human experience. You can't eliminate or ignore a feeling until it goes away magically, but you can accept that you feel it and get rid of its cause. You can self-examine what you focus your attention on and check if you are selectively concentrating on negative things. Was this interaction with a colleague really negative? Or was it really neutral or even positive? What was the actual content of an interaction? What did the other person say? And did they say something bad, or did you add extra meaning to their words? Maybe another person was not really reacting negatively, but just short on time. Then there are your thoughts about the world. Are you assuming the worst about others' intentions? Do you enter a social situation and have already decided how it will go? Do you assume others don't want you around? Are you trying to avoid being hurt, and not risking opening up? And if so, can you try to give others the benefit of the doubt? Can you just assume that they're not against you? Can you risk being open and vulnerable again? And lastly, your behavior. Are you avoiding opportunities to be around others? Are you looking for excuses to decline invitations? Or are you pushing others away preemptively to protect yourself? Are you acting as if you're getting attacked? Are you really looking for new connections, or have you become complacent with your situation? Of course, every person and situation is unique and different, and just introspection alone might not be enough. If you feel unable to solve your situation by yourself, please try to reach out and get professional help. It's not a sign of weakness, but of courage. However we look at loneliness, as a purely individual problem that needs solving to create more personal happiness, or as a public health crisis, it is something that deserves more attention. Humans have built a world that's nothing short of amazing, and yet none of the shiny things we've made is able to satisfy or substitute our fundamental biological need for connection. Most animals get what they need from their physical surroundings. We get what we need from each other. And we need to build our artificial human world based on that. Let's try something together. Let's reach out to someone today. Regardless if you feel a little bit lonely, or if you want to make someone else's day better. Maybe write a friend you haven't spoken to in a while. Call a family member who's become estranged. Invite a work buddy for a coffee. Or just go to something you're usually too afraid to go to or too lazy to go to, like a D&D event or a sports club. Everybody's different, so you know what's a good fit for you. Maybe nothing will come of it, and that's okay. Don't do this with any expectations. The goal is just to open up a bit, to exercise your connection muscles so they can grow stronger over time, or to help others exercise them. We want to recommend two of the books we read while researching this video. Emotional First Aid by Guy Witch, a book that addresses, among other topics, how to deal with loneliness in a way that we found helpful and actionable. And Loneliness, Human Nature and the Need for Social Connection by John Cacioppo and William Patrick. It's an entertaining and scientific exploration as to why we experience loneliness on a biological level, how it's spread in society, and what science has to say about how to escape it. Links for both books in the video description.
Alright, quite interesting video. Very modern, you know. Alright, just give me a second. Alright guys, that's really interesting that, you know what's really interesting, the most interesting part is that in the past, we needed to be connected to people, because being connected to people meant that you had food, that you were safe, but then we started evolving and becoming more and more individualized. What would you have to say about what did you find interesting about the movie, Felipe? Something that was new to you or something that...
There's a lot of information in there.
A lot of information, okay.
It's definitely not as simple as I thought it was.
Okay.
It is definitely something that we ought to be aware of. If you have a friend that kind of feels lonely, you have to help them, or if you feel lonely, you have to seek for help.
Seek for help, right? That's something really interesting. Do you notice that sometimes we are lonely, but we don't even realize that we're being lonely?
Yeah.
A friend calls, and then so I don't want to talk to this guy now. And then a friend invites you to a barbecue. Let's go to a barbecue. Say no. And then the same friend invites you for something else, and you say no again. And then you keep on saying no. What's going to happen? This person is going to exclude you from the circle, and then you become more. And that's what people don't understand. Sometimes it's your actions that's making you become lonely and feel lonely, and it can get to a stage that's quite serious, quite dangerous. You know, end up needing to have medical. To look for medical help. In the UK, a high percentage of 18 to 34-year-olds say that they often feel lonely. In the US, it's the entire population that feel lonely regularly. Okay? Being alone and being alone, we talked about it, we saw the difference. And this third question here, do social skills matter when it comes to social connections?
Sometimes.
Do you understand this? What is social skills? For example, I am a very talkative kind of person. I talk to everyone. Do you think that that makes me different in the fact that I can feel lonely too? No, not really. And they even said that in the video, right? That you can be a talkative person, you can be a communicative person, but
We still can feel lonely.
you can still feel lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think it's harder for you to feel lonely than someone that is not that talkative.
Talkative or shy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And why was the feeling of loneliness so important in prehistoric times?
Because it's a survival thing. yeah,
Survival thing, you know, natural selection, sustain social bonds. Do you understand the bond?
Yeah, like a connection.
Connection, that's a bond, a connection, okay? So social bonds, crucial, protect you from threats. Right. How has our social network changed throughout history? What do they say about how we changed from prehistoric times to nowadays?
I think the technology part.
Technology
Really was a turning point.
was a turning point, all right? Very good word, man. A turning point. Yeah, they actually mentioned that the social during the Industrial Revolution that happened in England in the 19th century. That's when people started working in factories. So everyone became more individualized. And nowadays with mobile phones, even more and more. How many close friends do people have in general nowadays? Two. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
I've got quite a few.
You got quite a few, right?
I got on you.
Yeah, I suppose that for you guys, you know, coming to a different country without your family, you need good friends around.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
It helps.
Yeah.
it helps a lot, man. There's nothing worse than feeling lonely. Okay. All right. It's okay. We're heading towards the end of our class, anyways. And what are the 5 most common threats to maintaining a close relationship with your friends?
Do you guys have a minute so she can walk through?
Oh, that's the 5th student. You can come in. Hello.
Hey, how you going?
Good, yourself?
Sorry, I won't interrupt.
That's alright. No, you're not interrupting at all. That's actually a good ending for the class. Right, and
Fernando, it says being alone means death.
being alone means death.
Yeah, I think.
Well, can anyone help Leandro to understand that part? What does it mean to being alone means death?
But I didn't get it. I didn't hear that.
Leandro, I know a telephone number of a good counselor, so if you can go there on Monday, you know, probably book you up for a session.
Oh, did you see
counselor.
that in the video?
Yeah, I could see.
Maybe you missed
Probably in
it.
the past.
Or-
They actually meant
Yeah,
that
meant
in
that,
prehistoric times. Yeah.
The survival
That
thing.
makes
That's
sense,
it.
yeah.
And what is more deadly? Obesity, smoking, or loneliness?
Same thing. They mentioned that. They said it's pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much the
If
same.
you feel lonely and you smoke a pack of cigarette, it's the same thing. Like, it's just as bad.
Yes, very true. That's really interesting what they say. Yeah, and it can be a dangerous thing. And what can we do about this vicious circle in general, Leandro?
Trying to get like more connected to your friends and
Trying-
family.
Okay.
Just being connected.
Just being connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
To people.
Being connected to people. All right, Kyle, do you agree?
Yeah, I just think you should like do what you like to do and you meet the right person.
All right.
I think
Okay,
they-
meeting the right person.
They also mentioned things about going to social events, just get out of your comfort zone. You know, just go do something different.
Get out of your comfort zone. That's
Yeah.
a good way of saying it.
Even if you don't really want to go out, you don't really want to connect to people, just put some extra effort on it and then go do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Will definitely help.
That's something. There's something really interesting that they mentioned there. That animals, they get everything they need from the environment around them, but we don't. But we are really dependable on one another. We depend on each other, and that's what people don't understand.
Correct.
That we are interdependent. One, and it's good because sometimes we don't like something in a friend because it's different to us, but it's in the differences that you complete each other. It would be a very boring world if everybody thought the same and acted the same. Of course, it becomes hard to accept some. All right. Do you have anything else to say, Leandro?
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks for being so polite.
No,
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
I
of,
like the video. I think the video talk about some things happening nowadays,
Okay.
and it's a big issue.
It's a big issue, man.
So yeah,
Yeah, lots of people committing suicide, especially here in Australia.
Mhm.
I think it's the highest suicide rate amongst young people. So it's a serious problem here.
Yeah, yeah.
Starting to rain. Well, guys, thanks very much. As for next class, I just want you to do a review, and I want you to watch a video of your own. You choose a video, like a quick video like this one that we just saw. You watch the video, and then you're gonna bring what you learned from this video to our next
Video
class.
about loneliness.
Not necessarily about loneliness, it's just a short video, 10 or 12 minutes. It can be about sports, can be about wine or living abroad. I just want you to prepare a little presentation, like an oral presentation, 5 minutes each. Okay? It was a pleasure teaching you. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. And remember, whenever you have some free time and you have nothing to do, get a book, just an English book, read it. Of course, there's nothing else you can do with a book, alright, apart from reading. But you can read a book, you can watch a video. That's what many people don't understand. They think, oh, I don't want to study, but studying is not necessarily doing exercises. It's watching a video. If you don't understand it without the subtitles, you put the subtitles on, watch a video, read a book, read a magazine on a topic that you like, but do something.
Listen to the music you like.
Listening
that
to-
helped me a lot actually.
Listening to music that you like, listening to
Reading
songs that you like, reading
the lyrics.
the lyrics, very good. Thanks very much, guys. This is it for the day. Any more questions?
No,
No.
thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Cheers. Thank you.